So I'm going to talk today about a few different experiences working with the supply pod from Outer Places subscription box. And to do so, I'm going to give you a little bit of context about our company, who we are, what we do, and how I've approached these situations. Outer Places is a digital media company where science meets science fiction. And we have an editorial and creative team that produces about 8 to 10 pieces of content a day, ranging from the latest updates from NASA all the way through reviews of sci-fi franchises like The Walking Dead and Star Wars. As most digital media companies struggle with, we wanted to find a really tangible way to engage with our audience. We've had a lot of success at Comic-Cons hosting panels like this one on the science of Star Wars, where we had a NASA physicist partnered with somebody from Lucasfilm talking about how the science fiction of today could become the science of tomorrow. And there you can see our line wrapping around the auditorium to get in. As we were looking at other ways to engage our audience, the idea of working in the subscription box space started to become really relevant. What we wanted to do as we were surveying the different potential competitors in our space is we realized there's different people that are obviously catering to our core market, but nobody's really capitalizing on this core competency that we have where science meets science fiction. So we thought there was an opportunity to include not just exciting licensed Star Trek, Star Wars merchandise, but also a science kit that fits in with that theme. So for example, last holiday we launched a Star Wars inspired supply pod. And for those of you familiar with the Star Wars folklore, a Jedi has to go out and find find a crystal to power their lightsaber. And this is why the Jedis have different colored lightsabers. So we included a crystal growing kit as part of our Star Wars kit. In addition, we had a book in there called The Psychology of Star Wars, which is written by a professor of psychology about the Freudian themes that are inherent in the entire chronology of the Star Wars tales. So a little bit of a different spin than what some of our competitors are doing. This is an example of the boxes we've done so far. We ship every other month, and we've done themes around The Martian, Batman, Superman, X-Files, etc. This is the supply pod team. The Outer Places team, all in all, is about 10 people, 5 of whom are really focused on editorial and creative. So in the day-to-day operations of managing the subscription box, there's really just 5 of us, which is really exciting and also, of course, sometimes really frustrating. But it's kind of an all-hands-on-deck mentality. For example, Brandon there, who's our back-end developer, who does all of our API integrations, is also doing all of our customer service because he's just actually really good at it. But even with a really small team, we've been able to forge partnerships or are in discussions with every single company on this slide. And you're probably thinking, how the heck did you do that? Before I jump into how we forge these partnerships, I just want to highlight the fact that there's a lot of different types of partnerships out there. The 2 I'm going to really focus on today are press partnerships, where usually it's not so much of a formal agreement. There might be some type of affiliate payment that happens on the back end, but it's pretty much a gentleman's agreement that we're going to send you something, you're going to review it, hopefully you'll be nice about it, and we'll get some love all around. The second type is a more intense, engaged business development relationship. These usually involve a legally binding contract, a series of deliverables, have a much longer timeline, and there's usually money exchange, usually some type of revenue share involved. So the first pod I'm going to talk about is the one that we did with The Martian, which we launched in partnership with Penguin Random House, the publisher of the book, and 20th Century Fox, which produced the movie. The next pod I'm going to highlight is the one themed around the X-Files, for which we worked with Fox Television. And then we did an exclusive Comic-Con box with the Phoenix Comic-Con team for their audience at the beginning of the summer. And then it's not all roses. I'm going to also talk about the one that got away. For anybody in business development or sales, it's always the sale that got away from you that keeps you up at night no matter how great your achievements are. So I want to share what I think went wrong with that deal. So first up, The Martian, Andy Weir. Last year, who in the audience saw the movie or read the book? Yeah, most people? Pretty good, right? And this was perfect for us because it's really where science meets science fiction. So we decided to launch around this property. At this time, we hadn't done one supply pod, we had no unboxing videos to share, we had no press releases, we had not even a box designed. All we had was essentially a one sheet with a lot of Photoshop done to show what we could possibly make happen. And I thought, you know, this is only going to really take off if we can get some key buy-in from Random House and 20th Century Fox. Unfortunately, with our small team, none of us had any connections there, so I had to literally start from ground zero. So what did I do? I went to the good old Google machine and typed in Penguin Random House to try to find somebody to work with, and got to this kind of obtuse contact us page, which I didn't really like. So then I went and saw that, hey, you know what? They're in New York City, we're in New York City, and here's a phone number. And I can't stress this enough. We're in this day and age where we like to email and text and Slack and Basecamp, but pick up the phone when you can, especially if it's the first point of contact, because not a lot of phone calls come in these days. So when one does, people tend to actually pay attention. It's a little intimidating, it's a little scary, but that's exactly what I did. I researched on LinkedIn who the executive vice president of global marketing was, some big fancy title at Random House, and left him a brief message saying, we'd like to do a partnership opportunity with you. Who on your team can I talk with? And literally later that day, I got a phone call from somebody on his team saying, let's talk. Over the course of about 4 to 6 weeks, we had a series of meetings, in-person, phone calls, email chains, and we came up with a strategy where Random House would fund putting the Martian book into our pods, and in addition, they would have Andy, the author, sign each and every copy. So right away, in our first box, we had an exclusive item that was not available anywhere else, and it was sponsored by the publisher. Next, I wanted to get in with 20th Century Fox. Luckily, we were already working with Penguin Random House at this point in time, and he was able to refer me to his contact over there. Had a nice warm introduction. What we decided to do with 20th Century Fox was they would do social media support around the launch of the Martian supply pod, as well as donate an oversized movie poster signed by the entire cast of the movie, Matt Damon, Jessica Chastain, Ridley Scott, and we used that as a sweepstakes giveaway item for social media, which was hugely successful. The upshot, we sold out, and because of the amazing press we got, thanks to Liz and Eric at My Subscription Addiction and with other unboxing videos, still to this day we get a ton of inbound requests asking to buy this specific box. This is an example of a press marketing partnership. No money was really exchanged, there was no formal legal agreement, and the total lead time to get this closed was about 6 weeks. The next was around the XFiles. Did anybody watch the series reboot that happened in January? One person? Okay, all right, we got some hands, good. So this was really exciting. The X-Files audience is so engaged and so vibrant that we wanted to do something to support that. Now, luckily, I'm gonna go back. So I had in my mind the fact that 20th Century Fox, Fox Television, same parent company, get a warm introduction, should be nice and easy. Unfortunately, I learned the hard way that they're pretty siloed as two separate divisions, and I couldn't even have my contact at 20th Century. She didn't even know who her counterpart was at Fox Television, believe it or not. So I was back to ground zero. Tried to do the phone call thing, didn't really get through, and so I finally realized I'm gonna do an email. And my strategy here was to look for the very top person I could find on LinkedIn. Luckily at this point, I knew the email structure for Fox, you know, first name, last name, at Fox, whatever. And I came up with this email. Now the thing about emailing somebody with a title out of the blue, like Executive Vice President of Global Brand Marketing, is they have a lot of minions who are going to be reading their emails and ferreting them off. So what I wanted to do here was come up with something very terse and succinct that would get through the minions and that would capture this person's attention. So I just wrote, hi, we have a successful mystery box called Supply Pod for the science and science fiction loving audience of Outer Places, and our upcoming pod is inspired by the return of the X-Files. Here's our past pod that supported the Martian where we worked with, and put in the name, at 20th Century. Would like to bring you in the loop and brainstorm any cross-promotional opportunities. Who would be the best person to speak with about collaborating and best supporting your marketing efforts? Now, something that we did here was instead of selling ourselves and saying, we can do all this for you, I asked a question, how can we be of service to your efforts? What can we do to support you? How can we be your partner, right? And as often happens with people at that level, within an hour, I got an email back where he CC'd about 15 people, and he said, I don't know much about this, but let me know if it sounds like a good idea, and we were getting and going. So what we did with Fox Television was a little similar, where we had an oversized poster that was signed by David Duchovny, Gillian Anderson, and the show creator Chris Carter that we gave away on social media. But even better, I keep clicking at the wrong spot, is the Fox television team had a whole swag bag closet full of stuff for press screenings that they give out to celebrities and different events. So they had a whole closet full of these Funko Pop Dana Scully figurines. They said, okay, great, we'll give you all these for the box, and you guys promote X-Files, fabulous. So now, next box, we got something in there for free, funded by Fox Television, social media support, and a free giveaway. Not bad. Upshot, we sold out. This was, again, a press and marketing relationship where we had about a 4-week lead time. And believe it or not, we started doing this at the beginning of December, which is the worst time to do any deal because the holidays are there. But it was pretty easy, and at this point, we had proof of concept of what we had already done with 20th Century. So it was a nice way to kind of keep the ball rolling. Next, I want to talk about what we did with Phoenix Comic-Con, which is a regional con. At this point, essentially every city in the United States has their own Comic-Con because they're so wildly successful. This event has over 100,000 attendees that came, and we wanted to do an exclusive box for their audience. And as part of this deal, which was much more complicated, we wanted to have a revenue share. We had very explicit instructions about how we would cross-market, which assets we would use at what time, the frequency. It was a very involved negotiation and discussion, but at the end of the day, it was very successful. And here's the email that we designed that Phoenix Comic-Con sent out to their massive database of subscribers, letting them know that, hey, after a bunch of pre-promotion, you can finally buy it, and I get email alerts every time somebody buys something, and literally my battery died because we had so many orders coming in. And then here's an example of some promotion that we negotiated to have on their homepage as well. Again, we sold out, which is very exciting, and everybody was happy at the end of the day. This was a much more complicated dynamic, and we had to get legal involved. We had to have a lot of stakeholders sign off on it. The total time to get this brokered was about 12 weeks. The one that got away. Now, this is going to be probably the saddest slide in my presentation on purpose. So I'll tell you, without naming names, there was one massive entertainment company that I desperately wanted to work with. And I tried all my strategies up until this point, emailing, calling, following people on LinkedIn and Twitter, couldn't get in touch with anyone. I saw that this company was going to have a presence at the licensing trade show in Las Vegas. So, got on a plane, went to the licensing trade show. Unfortunately, they had a huge sentinel of people in front, so I couldn't actually get in to talk to anybody at this company because I didn't have an appointment. But lo and behold, the person I wanted to meet there was on a panel, not unlike the ones we've seen today. So I sat in the panel, the very front row, smiled, waited to the very end, got into line. I wanted to be the very last person in the line because if you're talking to people at events like these and there's a huge line, they're going to be a little rushed when they're speaking with you. They want to get out of there. There's a lot of people listening. It's kind of uncomfortable. So I was the very last person, gave them a quick elevator pitch, and I said, listen, we've done some fun partnerships in this space. I think we could work together. Is there somebody on your team that you think we should meet with? And he said, you know what? I'm going to be in New York next week. Let's meet when I'm there. I'm going to bring a few team members. So we had a few conversations in New York. My whole team flew to LA a few times, had more conversations. We're working on this deal. Everybody's excited. We're putting together the terms. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of screwed it up. And here's what I did. At the very beginning of the process, I asked them what their budget was. And it was a very sizable budget, right? They're a big studio. And we put together this elaborate sponsorship package, custom packaging, supply pod, all kinds of awesome stuff. And what I didn't do before I hit the send button on the final proposal, which was at this point almost 3 months later, is I didn't confirm their budget. And about a week before this time, their budget had changed. And we never got wind of it. And it's not their fault. I'm managing the process. It's totally my fault for not double checking the facts. We sent them this proposal. It was much more than they could afford. A competitor was also bidding on it. Somehow they got up on the budget, and they came in at the right price. So we lost the deal. So lesson learned, always up until that very, very last minute, triple confirm the parameters of the deal you're putting together because things change in a moment's notice. All right, so quickly what I'm going to do here, and then we'll open it up for questions, and then you guys can all catch your flights, is just go through some top-level lessons I've learned over the years of putting together deals like this on how to be a business development and partnership superhero. First, Find a personal connection. I think this is much easier to do in person or on the phone than over email. You can ask somebody about their recent vacation, their kids. You can look them up on LinkedIn. For example, somebody I wanted to talk to had started off, his very first job out of college was as a studio assistant on The Price is Right. So I started asking him about that experience, and it was a really fun conversation that actually lasted about 20 minutes before we dived into the opportunity I wanted to talk to him about. So, find a personal connection. We all want to work with people we like at the end of the day, right? Have a silent partner. This is negotiation 101. It's always great to have somebody who's not actively involved in the negotiation that you have to check with, right? So for me, it was our CEO. I would say, you know what, these deals sound good, I need to take it to our CEO. And if our CEO didn't like it, I could renegotiate through it, putting a good cop, bad cop spin on things. Even if you're the only person in the business, make up a board of advisors, make up a mentor, make up whoever it is, a wife, a husband, it doesn't matter, but somebody else who can say no on your behalf, and then you can go back and renegotiate for a better deal. Just do it your own way. At the end of the day, you got to have your own personality and style come through. These are the tips that have worked for me. But regardless, just try. You're probably going to fail. You're going to get a lot of crickets on the other end of the line. Warm introduction. It's fabulous when you can get a warm introduction. It totally helps. But don't wait for a warm introduction. You do not need one. And honestly, I think that it's very easy to say, I would love to work with X, Y, and Z, but how are we going to get in the door there? You just figure out a way and make it happen. Just because you don't know somebody doesn't mean that you can't make it happen. Pick up the phone. Again, I'm going to say this again. Don't pick up the phone to send a text or an email. Pick up the phone to actually call. You will get your phone calls returned. It is a great way to establish a rapport, and it's a really nice way, especially when you're negotiating, to keep things friendly, because sometimes things can get a little tense in a negotiation, and you can't put too many emoticons in an email and still seem professional. Aim big. So for example, we are in talks with the White House to support their STEM initiatives. Amazing, small startup, talking to the White House, but we just reached out to them, and guess what? They're interested. Believe in yourself. I think this is really challenging, especially when you're a smaller business. You might not have a ton of subscribers, but believe in what you have to offer. And be a micro-influencer. I don't care if you have a box with 20 subscribers that only focuses on artisanal honey from Maine. There is somebody out there that finds that audience incredibly valuable and is going to want to partner with you. We've been doing a lot of discussions with different social media influencers in New York, and there's a new trend emerging. Obviously, it's amazing to work with somebody who has 1 million followers, but it's impossible to get in touch with them. But somebody who has 2,000 to 5,000 followers, they still have an engaged audience, and they're going to be a lot easier and more willing to work with you. So you get 20 of those people versus one of those people, and you can start to build a really influential campaign. And you can also position yourself to brands as, hey, we have a whole team of influencers as well that we're catering to, people who love exactly what you're trying to promote. You guys remember Qbert? Remember this game? Yeah? All right. So Qbert always started at the top, right? He would go and he would bounce and bounce and bounce, and then finally he would fall off and you would die. But if you don't start at the top, you're never going to get where you want to go. So this is why I always look for the senior vice president of global whatever, crazy intimidating title, because if you can get into that person and they send an email to somebody on their team, now it's their job to get in touch with you. Now they're accountable to their boss to get in touch with you and to follow up. If you have a friend of your brother's sister who's the assistant social media marketing intern somewhere, who's going to sell it to her boss, it's never going to happen, right? It's the easy way in, but it's never going to happen. Start at the very, very, very top. Let others explain. If you're ever in a meeting or a conference call and you find somebody on the other side of the table who is explaining your idea to their team, shut up. Just let them talk, even if they get some of the details wrong, even if the nuance isn't quite right, let them sell the idea in for you, because guess what? Your job has got a lot easier. Okay, now this is big. Shut up when you get the yes, right? This is sales 101, because what happens, you're working on a deal and somebody says, yes, let's do it. You get a burst of adrenaline and you start talking. Right? You're like, oh, this is going to be so great. We're going to do yeah. And what do? You now give them a reason to think, what's wrong with this guy? Like, what the hell's going on here? So just shut up and walk out. Or if you can't control yourself, and I'm guilty of this too, change it to a personal topic, right? Hey, what's going on with that vacation you were planning? Or hey, how are your kids liking the new school? So you can have that enthusiasm, but don't talk about the deal anymore. Your work is done. Do not screw it up. Be prepared. All right, so as our business has grown, we now get approached with potential opportunities, and it's incredible how many phone calls or emails we will get where somebody has absolutely no idea really what we do or what we stand for or what we've done in the past. So don't be that person on the other end of the line. Really research it, read the articles about the CEO of the company that have been in ink. Be really, really well researched. Ask questions. Have you all ever been on a date or at a dinner with a group of friends and there's that one person who won't stop talking about themselves, right? It's really annoying. We all have amazing businesses, we all have a lot to offer, but the most important thing is to get the other people talking about what they need, because in the course of that, they will either, one, start to raise objections about why they shouldn't work with you that you can start to address, or you will find them starting to talk themselves into why they could work with you. But the main thing is to get as much information from them as possible. Don't sell, educate. At this point, I think we're in an era where nobody wants to be sold to. People just really want to feel like there's an opportunity that they can evaluate on their own merits. So just give them the information. You don't say things like, oh, this is the best deal, and if you don't do it, we're going to go to your competitor. Nobody wants to hear that, right? That's like a used car salesman. Follow up. If you're running business development or sales, it's your responsibility. I can't tell you how many deals will get stalled in legal, especially at a bigger company where there's a lot of stakeholders involved. A lot of people have to sign off on things. It's your job to follow up, and you have to stay on top of it. No excuses. But you got to be nice, because at this point, people stay at jobs for, on average, 3 to 4 years. You know, that guy here is going to be the guy you need to talk to 4 years from now at the other company that you want to partner with. Be a pitbull. This is my nickname at my company. They call me the pitbull because I guess I'm just a little aggressive and I'm from New York, so I take that as a compliment. But you got to stay in front of people. At this point in time, there's no reason to let a deal slide because you didn't want to offend somebody or you wanted to wait 3 days before you sent them another email. If they don't get back to you within 24 hours, it's dead, right? That's it. It's dead. 24 hours is gone. Get in front of them again. Okay, but you got to stay really excited. By the time we were at the end of our deal with the Phoenix Comic-Con crew, we were all a little fatigued. It had been through legal, it had been through revisions, it had been through negotiations, and we were all kind of exhausted. So you need to stay excited about the project. Don't oversell it, but just reiterate how excited you and your team are to be part of this, how it's going to be a lot of fun. Make people feel good about the partnership, because things are going to get bogged down in the details as you go through it. And the final slide, and then I will shut up and let you go, is to be confident. So I'm just going to read this quote. The big charade with confidence is that it has nothing to do with the comfort of what we achieve and everything to do with the comfort of what we don't achieve. People who are confident in business are confident because they're comfortable with failure. There we go.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Larry.
guys.